YouTube Ozic going the Goat is back. Today we're taking a way too early look at the 2023 NFL Draft quarterback class. I'm actually going to rank them at this way too early stage. We're going to start at 1. We're going to make our way up to 10. And then we'll talk about several more quarterbacks as well to watch out for. But we got a whole season of college football still ahead of us. Guys can improve their draft stock. Guys could decline. Hopefully not. And then there's some new guys that could enter the conversation as well. So I'm breaking it down at this stage here. Somewhat recently, we did a 2023 mock. We can do another one. We can do more videos like this if people recommend it. We're predicting the upcoming 2022 NFL season. Bunch of predictions, record predictions right around the corner. All kinds of content here at the Goat House. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Always talking to you guys on our Twitter. Have live updates there as well. Link down below. Check it out. Here's our Twitter. Just always updates on what's going on in the NFL, signings, different things like that, and what's coming on our channel. So check it out. So we're starting at 1. I thought we'd start at 1, go to 10. Number 1 for me is going to be CJ Stroud from Ohio State. I got him at that 1 spot. And, when I was watching draft film for those top Ohio State receivers for this 2022 draft, and Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Stroud, my thoughts on Stroud really went up because you can see, watching all these different games, how much he improved. Ridiculous amount throughout the year. We know he has the arm talent, the arm strength. I like his pocket awareness, his pocket movement, very smooth, gets the ball out on time. Kind of comparing him to Justin Fields, he's in the most recent Ohio State quarterback. Stroud still has more upside because he's only been 1 year as a starter and already showed improvement. But, Fields can be a little bit more athletic, a little faster, but I think Stroud is so much better in the pocket with his movement and then, getting the ball in time, kind of feeling pressure without seeing it. So he has a shot to be better than him. And there was rave reports from Stroud out of the Pro Day, Ohio State Pro Day, which he, wasn't in the draft, but he was there throwing the ball to those receivers. So very impressive, especially watching the tape of those receivers. Stroud standing out the most there. He's got the frame, the size, everything you look for. And again, the crazy part is he's going to improve likely, so that I like Stroud at 1. And I would actually, and this is my rankings, but I'm also confident that most NFL teams at this way too early stage have him at 1 as well, or at least project him to be 1. So yeah, for now he's at 1. I don't really expect that one to change. We'll see, though. It's crazy what a year could do here, a season. Number 2 is going to be Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner, who was better overall throughout the entire year last year than maybe C.J. Stroud. I think the difference is, Bryce Young a little on, on the smaller side. Not that he's really, I don't really consider him undersized. If he can play, he can play. But I think teams will, the 2 top-tier prospects, I think that'll really be a factor there. It was crazy. Alabama offensive line was obviously it's very solid, but it's not really your normal Alabama offensive line last year. He was actually under a little bit more pressure than some of the past Alabama quarterbacks. So could it, they're losing Evan Neal as a star, but could they take a step up and, work better here for Bryce Young this year so he can have more time to throw? But we know he can escape. We know he can throw on the run. We know he can make all the throws down the field. I think Stroud's he's got more of that prototypical size. I think he's got a little more upside as well. Kind of showed it. Again, improving throughout the year. A little more flashy with the arm talent, in my opinion, as well. Young's going to be a little bit quicker, more athletic, but I think if Bryce Young was about, more of that prototypical size, 6'3", 6'4", we'd probably be talking about him 1, which it is important. I mean, we saw these quarterbacks in this past draft drop way further. We know it was a weaker class. There was no Bryce Young. Bryce Young's far better than those guys, but they dropped way further than we thought. And I was kind of thinking it's probably because they don't really have that prototypical size. So Bryce Young, maybe some teams are like, he's pretty good, but we're kind of looking for, because everyone's picky about their quarterbacks because you're taking them to be elite. You're not taking this guy just to be good like some of the other positions. So, and Bryce Young can be that, but they're going to kind of go down their checklist there. You got to be the appropriate size. So some teams may not be interested at the top just because of that, but obviously very talented. We'll see if he can, outplay the other quarterback, C.J. Stroud again this year. Should be interesting. If I had to predict today, at this way too early stage, I'd predict Alabama, Ohio State in the national championship game, so we could see them head-to-head in that game. That'd be big. 3-4, also towards the top, shows that how good this class is. So tough splitting it number 3 and number 4 up. So tough, back and forth in this. I'm going to go Tyler Van Dyke from Miami at number 3. Another guy, has a lot of upside. Really only saw him in action last year, a portion of last year. Incredible arm talent. That touch pass is beautiful. Sometimes puts a little bit too much air under it, but the ball placement seems to be good. Ball comes out in time. Throws over the middle of the field. A lot of velocity on those balls. Very good in the red zone. Extremely good in the red zone. It feels like he's just getting going, too. He's just getting going. Maybe not as athletic as some of these other guys, but he can move. It's not like he's a statue going to sit there. Some of these touch passes down the field remind me a little bit of Joe Burrow when he was at LSU. I think Joe Burrow was the best quarterback in college football history in a single season, in my opinion. So Joe Burrow's going to be a little tougher. Seen him break tackles. Definitely more athletic than Van Dyke. So I'm not really completely comparing him, but some of those throws down the field, the way he releases it, the accuracy, the touch on it, drop it right in the bread basket there, reminds me a little bit of that. But just seeing where he can kind of get to, Tyler Van Dyke, because he's just getting going. It's very impressive. And I know today's era, it's changed a little bit. You're kind of looking for the best arm talent first, but the guys that are also very athletic, because that kind of seems to be taking over. But at the same time, you still got the Tom Brady's dominating. Matthew Stafford just won a Super Bowl. Maybe Van Dyke can compare to Stafford in a way as well. Has that arm strength. Maybe a little underrated with mobility, I should say. They bring in maybe a better coaching staff there. Mario Cristobal, who coached Justin Herbert, who's already maybe an elite quarterback in the NFL, as the arm talent. Van Dyke is somewhat similar. Herbert's arm talent's going to be better. But the ball it's like a rocket sometimes, firing out of his hands. So, a lot of upside there. And then number 4 is going to be Will Levis from Kentucky. Will Levis is a lot to like. There's a lot of eye-popping moments. There's definitely some upside here. I think mainly his mechanics could use some tuning, which is kind of a good thing because you just kind of coach that up, fix that, tune those things, and then it results in better accuracy, cleaner play. So that's kind of a good sign for the NFL a little bit, but a little sloppy at times because there's those wow moments where, because he can throw a laser, he can hit that deep ball, he can throw on the run, he can run too, he can break some tackles. Almost turns into like a running back after the fact. Is that great for the NFL? It's you don't need him getting hurt, but it's definitely not a bad thing for sure. The toughness there, but then he'll kind of mainly because I think because of his mechanics, he'll kind of get a little sloppy and he'll whip the ball over someone's head or he'll throw a few interceptions. And then Kentucky kind of answering to that would throw a bunch of screen passes and 2-yard slants, 2-yard outs, would scheme things up on the rollout. So there is a lot of that. So it's a little tricky. That's why there's this wild moments, but how come it wasn't throughout the whole entire game, because there's the guys that, air the ball downfield in college football. They're throwing for 500 yards sometimes these days. And we didn't see that from Levis. We see those throws maybe on a highlight tape and that make you think, okay, so the entire game probably resulted in a bunch of those, right? Not really. Maybe because he's a little inconsistent. And Kentucky was kind of toning it down, screen passes, everything, a bunch of underneath plays. We'll run Levis, so a lot of upside here. A lot of upside if you can correct some things, if you can be more consistent. There's very, very good moments. The great moments look like elite prospect number 1 pick, right? And then the kind of the negative moments, very sloppy, a lot to work on. Looking at those moments, you wouldn't take him in the first round. So whole year to improve. I hope Kentucky lets him go, full games, airing the ball downfield. Let's cut it out with the gadget plays, underneath schemed up plays. So that's kind of what I want to see there. But a lot of upside. I think this is a guy, big body guy, tough, has the arm talent the NFL teams want to work with. We want to refine the technique, the mechanics, and then, hey, we might have a stud. All right, so I think that's what teams are thinking there. So I think a first-round player there. Number 5, I'm actually going to go with Hendon Hooker. I think a little bit on the underrated side. I don't think too many people have him number 5 right now. I think people forget how good of a year he had last year. I remember 3 seasons ago at Virginia Tech, he kind of caught my eye. I'm like, okay, this guy, and they were throwing a bunch of different quarterbacks in there. I'm like, all right, this is easily the best one, and this guy's legit. And then 2 years later, he's on Tennessee, and he didn't start the year. Joe Milton started the year, but Hooker came in and he was lights out, and we saw the improvement of Tennessee. And now we may be thinking, maybe Tennessee is finally back. not the elite at the top, but they might be a top 25 team. And I think it starts with Hendon Hooker because he can make all the throws. He's very athletic. He can throw on the run. Very good timing on his throws. The release looks good. The velocity looks good. Yeah, some of these downfield balls real good along the sideline. He's a little inconsistent. Like you show that flashy play, and then he'll kind of sail one over his receiver. And he can escape and he can run. He's very quick. But there are times where he's kind of insisting, I feel like. He's insisting on a certain read getting open, and he'll stay in one. He'll do his 3-step drop, and he'll stay in one spot in the pocket. He won't really step up past pressure. He won't move. He'll kind of be insisting, I'm going to stay right here. My guy's about to get open. And a lot of times he completes it still. But I noticed that a bit, and that wouldn't work in the NFL, so he could fix that up a little bit. Got to be able to, and it's weird because he can move, and there's times where he wants to move because he knows he can, but there's times where he forgets and almost like that he can move. But, first year, full-time guy, really getting going, a high-powered passing attack, which is new for Tennessee, really looked good. So what could he do in another year? He's impressive. Maybe a little bit on the underrated side. Could be a guy that, could be a top 5 guy. Here's an upside guy, Anthony Richardson from Florida. A lot of flashes. He has potential to be maybe even the top 3 on guys here because he's a strong dude. He has that arm talent. He's a very good runner. He's already very good as a runner. If there's an NFL team, maybe like a Malik Willis. But with more upside here for sure. I mean, Malik Willis has a lot of upside, but yeah, and he has more size mainly, and more. That's probably why he's maybe more likable to NFL teams, perhaps. But compared to Malik Willis, similar frame though, just more length. But yeah, he can run. A lot of design runs, very good running. That's kind of the thing though. You want to see less design runs. You want to see him as a passer a little more. He has a rocket arm. A little inconsistent throwing though. Sometimes we just throw it up for grabs, and he kind of got thrown in a situation when he should have already been in the situation. He kind of got thrown in the situation. Tough SEC team, so it's understandable where he would panic and throw it up for grabs sometimes. What did he throw? 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I think he was better than that stat line shows in terms of passing. And now a better coaching staff, we think, in there for Florida. You'd hope, and so we can see how he can grow here, but. He still it's tough to put him higher because, a guy like Hendon Hooker is just so much better of a passer right now. So much more polished, so much, just definitely more smooth. But Richardson, it's about what they can become, and he can become something special. But you do kind of worry, is he a run-first guy, which he's very, very good running. Like he can be, some NFL teams are gearing towards that. The Ravens been doing that. Could another team take Richardson, be run first, even with your quarterback, but he has that upside as a passer as well. So there's a lot to like there. It's just we got to wait and see. We got to see, because there's different scenarios. I can see him taking that step and like, all right, this guy's a legit passer because of his arm talent, and he's going to move up the boards. Or I can see where, he's still throwing some turnovers. He's throwing some interceptions quite a bit, and he's still got some work to do as a passer. We know he's a good runner. We know there's a lot to like there. So we'll see. Number 7, I'm going to go Spencer Rattler. And Spencer Rattler went from like too hyped to, I think, almost a little bit underrated at this point, actually, because I know, maybe he wasn't the most likable dude, I guess, if you watch QB1. So people were I think a lot of people don't like him maybe for that reason, or maybe because he didn't have success last year at Oklahoma when he was supposed to, or because he was hyped up big time. But I think maybe people are getting on him a little bit too much. He has a lot to work on. Some bad interceptions late in Oklahoma. Not a whole bunch, but and then really couldn't get the ball rolling a lot of those games. It's like, where's this Oklahoma offense? And then they put Caleb Williams in, and I actually saw still some of that now, but it was very, very clear that Caleb Williams is a lot better. I mean, this is probably a future number 1 overall pick, so it's pretty clear. I think Oklahoma thought that. I think Lincoln Riley thought that, and they were kind of just expecting that time to come. So maybe that's not too fair for Rattler. I guess that's opinion based. Maybe they were going to ride it out with him, and they were for sure thought he was the guy that can win the national championship with Rattler while Caleb Williams was sitting there. But I don't know. But it did seem like there was more with Caleb Williams because he's just better. He has more upside, but doesn't mean Rattler's not good. But there was still those moments where there was kind of stretches where the offense go a little bit quiet. I wasn't a big fan of Lincoln Riley's play calling last year, which is unusual. But Rattler goes to South Carolina. I'm another very good player that I think is extremely underrated. I'm a big fan of is Josh Vann, the receiver from South Carolina. So I'm excited about that connection there. But at the end of the day, Rattler was a top recruit for a reason. He has the arm talent. He has that very quick release. The ball fires out of his hands. Doesn't take long for him to get it out. He can hit the underneath throws. He'll throw in traffic a little bit. He'll throw interceptions, What I want to see him because we see like no hero ball kind of early on and late in the game. When it's unnecessary, we'll see that a little bit, force some things. But he has the talent. Reminds me a little bit of Matt Corral, who just got drafted this past year. So it reminds me a bit of him. I think Rattler's got some more upside here. It's weird. South Carolina, it's weird that he ended up there. Thought maybe Arizona State. Arizona State ended up having an opening at a quarterback way after that, after Rattler transferred over to South Carolina. So interesting, but we'll see how South Carolina does. We'll see if that helps his stock or not. We know he has the talent. He has that upside. If he's a guy in the NFL, he could be. He can be a kind of a Kyler Murray type. Kyler Murray's going to be more athletic, quicker. Rattler's a little undersized. We can have more size than him, but he's a guy that can have some sloppy moments, some turnovers, but then has those flashy moments as well. So I still like the upside there. I got him at 7. Number 8, maybe probably the most underrated guy out of this whole group, because it seems to be a big talking point for some reason this offseason, is 2023 quarterbacks. There's a load of them, and I don't really hear people talk about Cameron Rising from Utah that much. He had a very solid year. Well, back up, he was actually somewhat of a top recruit, actually ended up going to Texas. Obviously, that didn't work out. Texas had a little bit of a mess with their quarterbacks going on. And he was also, Lincoln Riley tried recruiting him. And then there was some interest from Bama as well, just a little bit. So that's interesting. And then it doesn't work out at Texas, obviously. That's okay. Goes to Utah. And then this past year was his first time starting. Utah was a real good football team, and they were significantly better at the end of the year than they were in the beginning of the year. They were a legit team at the end of the year. Seeing them beating up Oregon, they wouldn't have done that to Oregon earlier in the year. Beating up Oregon, beating up anybody they play, and they play a great game in the Rose Bowl offensively against Ohio State. Rising's tough. He can run, he can break tackles, and he can throw too. And Utah's offense is interesting. They'll let him throw. I wish they'd let him throw downfield a little bit more, but it's a lot of underneath. Which is out physical our opponent, which I kind of like. Maybe not for Rising stock. I want to see him, a little bit more there, but I think it's the matter of Utah letting him do it. We kind of saw some similarities with Tyler Huntley, who looks better than expected in the NFL, kind of getting outside of the comfort zone a little bit, letting him do maybe his comfort zone and letting him do a little bit more, but he was very good at Utah as well. But Rising, top recruit, a lot of upside, really good last year, really improved, and a second year starting here for Utah. I think it's a guy that can really take maybe a bigger step up and be ranked in the top 5 possibly of these quarterbacks. That's definitely one to watch out for. I think underrated. Number 9, going to go Will Rogers from Mississippi State, who had a very productive year, very good year, very accurate, got the ball in time, very solid downfield, can throw on the run. Solid step. I like he scans the field pretty well as well, even though we don't see a whole lot of reps doing that because of this Mike Leach offense, which is very tough to kind of grade and evaluate those types of quarterbacks, because a lot of it is schemed up plays. We're not even in a 3-step drop yet. We're throwing the ball on a very quick pass. So there's a lot of that. So it is a little tough to judge. And we saw, sloppy game against Bama, putting the ball up for grabs. That type of offense, you want to limit the turnovers a little bit, but he has those flashy moments. And we saw a little bit of them 2 years ago, but last year really, really stepped up. So some upside there as well. And then number 10, I'm going to go Cameron Ward, who's now at Washington State. He played for Incarnate Word, and he transfers over to Washington State. Big quarterback, very strong arm, laser arm, very fun to watch. Physical. So this is kind of the guy we got on our radar. Let's see how he does in Division I football, FBS football, and how he does against, Pac-12 competition. So was a 0-star recruit, obviously, and then so wasn't really on anyone's radar. Ends up at Incarnate Word and ends up now at Washington State. So now we see him against the competition. They threw the ball a lot last year, had a lot of production. Again, laser arm, very, very solid downfield, of course. So it's tough to rank because there's a lot to like. There's a lot of wow moments, but what could he do against the Division I competition? So, he can boost himself up into, anywhere, with a very good season because he's proven it at one level. Can he prove it at this level? But there's a lot to like here. There's a lot to like. So this is probably this is probably the guy I'm maybe more excited to watch is what he can become. Can he do some similar things? He played some good competition stuff. Extremely productive game against Sam Houston State. So let's see what he can do in the Pac-12 here. It's a guy that a little bit under the radar. And then the rest of the guys I want to talk about, Devin Leary's been very productive, very accurate, smart quarterback. Some underthrows, which was a little bit more velocity on the ball, but very good for NC State. Jaren Hall from BYU, very athletic, very quick, can escape sacks, pressure, can run, pretty accurate as well. Could use some more arm strength. Maybe he's about 6 feet tall. Phill Jurkovec from Boston College. A lot more people higher on him than I am. I want to see more because injured last year. He was formerly at Notre Dame, couldn't really get on the field. I know they had Ian Book there. Maybe he was struggling a little bit, though. I think it was up for grabs, really, but then Book kind of improved and solidified himself. But, Jurkovec kind of looks the part. I worry about him under pressure. Somewhat accurate. I just need to see more. I just need to see more here. The guys, there's a lot of guys we need to see more from, but the guys that are ranked higher, we saw like the wow flashes. I didn't really see that from him. So solid quarterback, has a shot to get in that top 10. Jake Haener, a little undersized, very productive at Fresno State though, accurate. Grayson McCall, very productive, a winner. He can throw. It's just tough because they run that option offense in Coastal Carolina. Not a ton of throwing downfield, a lot of schemed up plays, a lot of we're going to option, he's going to run, we're going to show option, he's going to throw it, just wide open guy, 2 to 5 yards down the field, so it's a little tricky. Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech's an interesting one. He was at Oregon right after Justin Herbert, and there was a lot of expectations, highly recruited from Shuck. Could this be a future first-round pick? And it didn't really work out. Didn't really get to see a whole lot of him, a lot of underneath plays, though. That's the thing with Oregon, the last year or so at Herbert, they simplified the offense too much for Justin Herbert, where he almost looked worse than he did early on in his career. Then he gets to the NFL and he looks great. All right, there's that guy that we thought that would be like that. And then Shuck's not Herbert for sure, but maybe he was somewhat similar there. So when he goes to Texas Tech, which the air raid offense. So this is great, right? And then he plays a few games and he gets injured. So very unfortunate. Hot and cold in the short stint that he got. More sample size coming this year. We need that. We need more of a sample size here. Dillon Gabriel from Oklahoma, formerly with Central Florida, 2 seasons ago was very productive, very good downfield, explosive playability, could roll out, could throw on the run as well. Now he goes to Oklahoma. He could be very productive there, a chance to show what he's got. What has he got? 6 foot, 6'1", so he wish he was a little taller. He has the release is interesting. He really loads up on that release. Maybe it takes a little too long. NFL evaluators always make a big deal about that. So that's kind of the question with him. DJ Uiagalelei, which was extremely disappointing. I thought he'd be a Heisman candidate last year. Extremely disappointing. He has the traits. He has the tools. He's got, he's a big body guy, can break tackles, can run, but he can fire the ball downfield. The velocity's there, okay? But he's not the smartest quarterback right now. He's not going through his reads properly. He's more focused on the pressure, panicking on the pressure, not good under pressure. The timing on the throws hasn't been great, hasn't been super accurate with the throws. And I think it's a little bit of panic in his game. So it's really here because he has the talent. It was very surprising how underwhelming he was last year. Then Brennan Armstrong from Virginia, a college star guy, very, very productive, can sling the ball, can run, he's tough too, can slip sacks, slip tackles. The release is the problem with him, the throwing motion, mainly the throwing motion. Which I'm a guy, if you can play, you can play, but the NFL evaluators really take that stuff seriously. He has kind of a wacky throwing motion, so probably a college star type guy. If we're ranking college quarterbacks, he's easily in the top 10. But I think when it comes to the NFL, I think he's going to go a lot lower, maybe not drafted just because of that throwing. We'll see how he does this year because of that throwing motion, because people, they kind of overreact from that. But that's the NFL team's decisions. Tanner McKee, very long, not super productive, didn't have a whole lot of help. Can he be a Davis Mills? Dorian Thompson-Robinson, very athletic. Kind of has those flashy moments too, a little inconsistent though. Lee Cunningham, kind of a run-first guy, very flashy, running the ball. Improved as a passer last year, so can he take that next step up? Some of these guys are kind of college style, like we've been saying. Can they become an NFL prospect? Kedon Slovis, he was getting hyped up a lot right away at USC, and if you remember, I wasn't really seeing it. And then he kind of went downhill, and that kind of, I didn't expect him to go that much downhill, but that kind of made sense to me. So I didn't really understand the hype. On him, but could step up. The coaching was very bad last year. It's been very bad, but it was almost even worse, with the interim coach, offensively at least. They just weren't prepared. It was just bad. So Slovis could step up going to Pittsburgh. See, Kenny Pickett was always solid, but then he took a major step up. So Slovis could improve there. He's got a solid touch pass down the field. Other than that, I'm not seeing a whole lot. Maybe a quarterback for like 10 years ago, 15 years ago for the NFL. And Sam Hartman, very productive, has that arm talent down the field, tough as well. I worry about, see big games, he started to turn the ball over a little bit in the ACC championship game, making mistakes. I worry about him, against like the NFL, zone coverages a little bit, but really took a step up last year. Flashy, productive, has that arm talent down the field. There's several other quarterbacks to talk about. Mainly, they got to step up. If there's a big name quarterback that is not listed here, if it's an NFL video, they really got to step up, to prove that they can be that NFL quarterback. So, and there's a mixture of guys here that I think are, Leary, I like, very, borderline top 10. Hall, Jurkovec probably next, and there's a lot of guys in there that either got to take a step up, we kind of got to wait and see, your Tyler Shucks. And then there's guys like, are they college quarterbacks and not really NFL? Looking at Grayson McCall, maybe Dillon, Gabriel, Brennan Armstrong, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Lee Cunningham, Sam Hartman, guys like that. So very good group of quarterbacks. I'm just really excited for college football. We cover NFL here. I think I'm more excited right at this moment for college football than NFL. So I'm excited to watch these guys. There's going to be a guy that really steps up, surprisingly. So we'll see. Let me know your guys' rankings, your guys' thoughts here. Very curious to see that. We're always talking to you guys on Twitter. We're going to get into our NFL record predictions next week, starting on Monday. So excited about all that, all of our predictions to come out, player rankings, and more. Join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow us on Twitter, link down below for that. That's going to do it. Goodbye.